This video will show you how to create the file for the process check for the Celebrity AI process checks. So as always, the instructions and the link to turn them in will be in Canvas announcements. And it just so happens that I'm making this while we're on week 2, but this video will apply to all of the process checks. So let me just say some generic things about the process check first before we move on to the file. So this link right here, right next to the number, and that's kind of a key thing in the way the class is, your class is going to work with me, is that if the link is right next to the number, that means that's for turning in. And as you'll see in future classes, sometimes there'll be a link here for turning in a process check, but there'll be a link down here that explains the project in more detail. So just kind of keep that in mind, but I should make that more obvious when we talk in Zoom. So each week, just read here what's due to get the low A, 36 out of 40. If you do less than that, you get less, and if you do more, you can get all the way up to 40 out of 40 points just by really digging into what's in the upcoming or next video instruction for this project. And then in all of the future announcements, there will be a video linked here, this video that you're watching now. Now let's go over how to create the file. So for example, let's say this is a student working on the project in Illustrator. First thing you want to do, because you're about to mess this file up a little bit to make the file to turn into me, is just go up here, whatever you've been saving it, save it one last time, do a file save as, and add to the end of it. I'm trying to go too soon here, so okay, so wait for that first one to finish saving, then go file save as, and add something to the end of it like I show here, like temp for process check. That way you know that a couple weeks from now you see that added to the end of a file, you know you can get rid of it. In fact, you may even want to create a file somewhere that is just for these temporary type of files. So I added that there, so I know now that when I am working on this temporary file, I can not worry about messing it up. So what I want to do is just make sure that the image layer is unlocked. If there's any extras over here, just grab them, delete them, and just remember when you're trying to delete stuff, if they're locked over here, you won't be able to get them, so you have to turn the lock off. And then also if you have a temporary lock on something, which you can take care of under Object, and if Unlock All is available, you select that. Then you're simply just going to grab your image and move it right next to the artboard. Then what you're going to do is click on the Artboard tool. So that is this tool over here. You're going to click here to wake this artboard up. Wait a minute, let's go back here one more time. Sometimes, okay, there we go. So I clicked here, clicked on the Artboard tool. Now this artboard is awake, and then I'm just going to put my mouse right over this edge here, this little like white button, it's called a handle, and then reach out, and what I'm doing is extending the size of the artboard. In fact, if you look in properties while I do that, you can see we've got the artboard at the size we started out, and then we click over here, move it, we now have a new size artboard. What size is it? It will vary for everyone depending on how big your image is. And keeping in mind that you're working on a copy here, you don't have to worry about being able to move that image back exactly where it was. You're just going to delete this file after you're done. Next, we are going to export the artboard at 72 pixels per inch. If you have a really good eye, you notice that this changed from 32 to 72, but 72 is correct. That's what we're going to export it as. You want to know which artboard you want to export if you have more than one. If I command minus out, you can see I only have one and only one artboard. But just for demonstration's sake, let's say that you did have more than one artboard that you were working on. So I'm just adding a couple here. The way you can tell which artboard it is you're after is just simply click on something on the artboard. In fact, you don't even have to click on something. You can just click on the artboard itself and it shows you right there. That's artboard number 1. So if I click on that one, it changes to 3. Click on that one, changes on to 2. All right, so now our next step is to go File, Export. Go Export As. Then we want to change or select the format to JPEG. This is the most important step and the most often overlooked step. Check Use Artboards. If you have more than one artboard, you will have the option to check range and enter the artboard number in that you want. If you only have one artboard, then all you have to worry about is making sure that Use Artboard is checked. You then make sure you know where it's going. I suggest making a folder. Earlier I said file. Make a folder that says temp files on your desktop, and then every now and then you just go in there and delete the ones that are like more than a week old because you know you didn't really need them. They were temporary. Okay, and then the same name that I named this before, it'll add the JPEG to it, so we're good. Click on Export. We want to change this to RGB since the only purpose for this is to view it on screen. We want this quality slider all the way over to maximum. We want the compression method to be baseline standard, although that's not really that important. Resolution, we want that to be at screen, 72 ppi. So if there are other options already in there, make sure you change that to 72 pixels per inch. Anti-aliasing, this is the most common one, so I'll just leave it there. And I'll check to embed the profile. And then we will click OK. And now it has saved that file. The last thing we want to do is go take a look at that file and make sure that it is what we are expecting. So there's the AI file that I started with that I'll be able to delete soon. And here is the JPEG that I am going to upload. So if I double click on it, it should open it in whatever the default is to open it, and I can see that looks good. And another thing to look for is the size. You should have a size that is probably at or just under 1 meg. So this is 731,000, which is definitely under 1 million. But the best way to check any raster-based file, meaning JPEGs, PNGs, Photoshop documents, is to actually open them up in Photoshop. And you can either drag this down to the Photoshop icon if you're on a Mac to open it up, or you can right click and select Open with Photoshop, or you can open Photoshop first and go to File, Open, and navigate to the file. In Photoshop, there's 2 tests that I always suggest you run. One is you take the F key, the actual just F key, press it a couple times, and eventually what happens is you see the image with nothing around it, just a black background. So you know that you got the right thing, or you know that you didn't get the right thing. Then you go to File or to Image Size, and make sure you get what you were expecting. So in our case, we want to make sure that we're seeing 72 pixels per inch, and then the rest should be good. Let's say it was on pixels and you just wanted to double check, you could change that to inches. And since we started out with the height of 19 and we just made it wider, we probably will all end up with the height of 19, but the width will vary for everyone. That's it. Now you are ready. You don't have to save anything here in Photoshop. If you made a mistake in Illustrator, just go back, watch the video in more detail as you're going through those export steps. But the last step is just to go into Canvas Announcements, click on the link, and upload your file. In these process checks, even though they're more of a true progress check, just to check your project or your project progress and give you some points on that, which is great. But I'll still occasionally offer you some suggestions. So if I can see your photograph of your celebrity next to your work, it'll be much easier for me to do just that.